Okay, we are live. Gabriel, welcome to the podcast, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Now, thank you for the invite. Thank you for the opportunity of to be here. I'm really excited.
Of course, bro. Yes, if you just start us off, a little intro, your name, where you're from, where you're currently playing, the
hmm
team you're playing at, a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Gabriel Cabral. I'm from Petropolis, Brazil, a city that is 40 minutes away from Rio de Janeiro, which is probably the place everyone knows more. But yeah, I grew up there playing futsal. I think like every Brazilian, whenever they grow up, we all start playing futsal back home. And then 7 years old, 8 years old, I was invited to a trial at Fluminense, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil. Um, Went there, passed, and then ended up staying in Fluminense for almost 10 years,
Wow.
um, and then um, had a
How far
pre-contract.
was Fluminense from your hometown?
Yeah, I was very lucky because Fluminense, the professionals, they actually train in Rio, which is,
Wow.
as I mentioned, 40 minutes, an hour away from
Mm,
my hometown. But the academy trains at a different place called Xerém, and it's 20,
okay.
25 minutes away from my place. So
Uh-huh.
for me, it was very convenient. It was very, very good. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it was, yeah, the best of both worlds for me at the time. But yeah, so that was good. Ended up staying there 10 years almost. I got there in 2005 and left beginning of 15, end of 14.
Right.
But yeah, had a pre-contract and all that stuff, but decided to come to the US whenever the opportunity came in
Mm.
15. But yeah, and then in 15 I came to the US.
Well,
Um,
first of all, I want to just sorry to cut you off. Why did you have that desire of coming to the U.S.? How did that come about?
Yeah, whenever I was playing for Fluminense, I only had the dream and the focus of playing for Fluminense or playing
Mm-hmm.
professionally in Brazil. I
Mm-hmm.
never thought twice about, uh, coming to the US to study, for example, which is
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what I did. But
Mm.
then in 14, when I had a pre-contract and had a couple of meetings with the Fluminense staff, we decided with a 2SV. It's a company in Brazil quite famous, in terms of doing
Mm.
student athlete transactions to the United States. They almost
Mm-hmm.
had a partnership almost with Fluminense. They were beginning the Florida Cup at the time, and
Mm.
Fluminense was one of the pioneers. And they knew that I could already speak English at the time. My parents were able to afford, which was
Mm.
very, very privileged.
Mm.
Um, and then that conversation just went by that way, and then whenever they gave me the opportunity, I talked to my parents, and as soon as the desire was there, I started to look and do a little bit of research. And then when I saw that the level was very high, and I also had the chance of getting a degree,
Mm-hmm.
it was very, tempting and very attractive for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then in 15, fall of 15, I uh, I went to the University of Charleston in West Virginia,
Mm.
a powerhouse D2 nowadays. At the time, I didn't know much. Social media wasn't as big as it is nowadays. Didn't have a lot of information in terms of how the program worked. I only knew that the year before they had made the Final Four.
Mm.
Sorry, they had made the final, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a bunch of Brazilians and a bunch of experienced English lads that played in big clubs as well in England.
Mm-hmm.
And that by itself already motivated me to go and take that challenge. But yeah, it was very, very interesting. I wasn't expecting the level to be as high as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then of course stayed there until 18.
Mm-hmm.
um, was able to win the first national championship with the university in the history of the university, which was
Wow.
was quite rewarding,
Yeah.
quite nice in 2017 under Daniel Stratford. um, so yeah, and then after that, when I graduated in 18,
Mm.
business administration undergrad, I had another year of eligibility because I didn't play in 15 because I was a red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So in the fall of 19, I went to University of North Carolina at Wilmington
Nice.
to get my master's degree in business administration and finance as well, and play my last
So you're
year
a
there.
businessman.
Yeah, a little bit. I wanna stay in soccer for my whole life.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to get the different background, but I already figured out that after I finish my career playing, I wanna give back to the sport that gave me so much, and I wanna
Love it.
become a coach. So
Love it.
yeah. Now
Yeah,
I'm
so we
I'm
could just talk about, like the training styles. I'm always interested.
mhm.
Um, so if you could compare like the training styles and the level, obviously, you were playing with men when you came over to the US, but like the training styles in Brazil compared to Charleston when you went over there.
Yeah, I think that Brazil is very well known for the style that we play football. It's a very spaced type of football. It's a very um, um, individualistic approach. I think it's
Yes.
changing nowadays
Yes.
because I think we realized that the sport is evolving, and it cannot be like that anymore. You won't have a Neymar that will win you games every single game, and
Yeah.
if you have a system that will that will stop him, it's much easier for for
Hmm.
for a team to beat us. So
Hmm.
it's changing, but at the time when I was at Fluminense, it was a lot of the level was extremely high as
Yeah,
well.
I'm sure.
It's just that I think the spacing is a little bit different. Maybe the game is a little bit slower, um,
Mm,
but it doesn't make the game easier by any means as
of
well,
course.
because I feel like the players adapt to that system, adapt to the way we play. Uh, but then in the US, I thought, because also I think the grass makes a huge difference. You don't have turf fields in Brazil. Uh,
Mm,
you might have bad grass fields, but you won't have turf fields.
yeah.
So that already changes a little bit when I came to the US. Most of the places I played, especially because it was very cold, I played on
Hmm.
turf.
Hmm.
Um, so that by itself is already a factor into the training sessions
Of
and the
course.
games as well. But yeah, because when I came to the US, I had a lot of guys that were seniors at the university that were 23, or some 24,
Hmm.
and they were
Mm,
from England. So they were raised in a style of play that was very physical and
yes.
very demanding. Uh, so the red shirt for me was very good, because it gave me that
Hmm.
little year to kind of get used to how the American football works.
Of
Uh,
course.
so, but yeah, maybe a little bit of change in the game speed. Maybe no, for sure, a little bit in the speed and the
Mm,
intensity. Maybe
mm,
when I got to Charleston, it was Chris Gracie, the head coach now at Marshall, and he is very peculiar in the way he likes to play. He wants you to have possession, but if you don't have possession, you need to get it back as soon as possible as well, which increases the intensity of the game for all the
yeah.
players. But
It's a nice style.
yeah, I mean, it's probably my
Gotta be
favorite, right?
fit. Yeah, you
Exactly.
gotta
It's
be
well,
fit,
it's
man.
my favorite. But
Yeah.
yeah. So that was good to see. That was good to learn. I learned a lot with the guys that were playing there at the time.
Hmm.
And then with Stratford as well, it was a very similar style. We ended up playing a 3-4-3 in 17 and 18.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
but yeah, it was very similar. Our team was very good. Thankfully, we had a lot of really talented players from all over the
Yeah.
place. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest differences between Brazil and the United States are probably the space. But it's been a long time as well since I played in Brazil,
For sure.
so I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now um, how it is, but if you want to
Hmm.
compare, if you watch the Premier League and you watch the highest league in Brazil, you have unbelievable players in Brazil,
Of course.
but
Of
you
course.
also see that the game is a little bit more spaced.
Mm,
Um,
interesting.
the,
Why do
the
you think? Why do you think it's like that? Plus, like you mentioned at the beginning, why is it so like individualistic? Do you think it has to do with maybe like the bringing up in the futsal environment rather than a team environment?
I think that something that it's already embedded in our culture. I think it's
Yeah.
something that, I don't know, if you get Germany, for example, that beat us at home 7-1 in the World Cup.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable team. You might not have a big star. Who was the big star of that team? Tony Kroos. But
Yeah.
like, he's not a star like Messi and Neymar and Ronaldo. He's an unbelievable midfielder, one of the best of all times. But
Hmm.
what won that game was the collectivity, was how good they were
Of
doing
course.
exactly what they had to do.
Yeah. No, that's football. That's
Yeah, it's
football.
football, exactly. So I don't know if it's something that it's about futsal. Maybe it is. Uh, I think it's very broad. I think you can talk about many things when you're talking into why Brazil football is different than European football, for example. I think
Mm, mm, mm.
um, futsal is something that is involved. I think maybe their origins, their family backgrounds, all of these things can be accounted for, because
Mhm.
you have a lot of poor Brazilians that have football as their only opportunity in life. It's either
Yeah.
that or you know uh, nothing. They don't have the
Yeah.
opportunity like I had to come to the US and get a degree and a master's. It's very, very unique, the scenario
Of
in
course.
Brazil.
Of course.
But
Like you said, I think it has to do with culture. I think that's
yes.
the interesting part because if I compare where I played overseas, I was in a couple places, and if I compare like Israel to Germany, Sweden, Latvia,
Hmm.
those countries over there, I would say that the lifestyle, if anything similar to Brazil, is probably Israel.
Hmm.
It's more like an aggressive life. I don't know if it's aggressive or whatever, but it's in Israel. It's more aggressive lifestyle. You got to fight for what you get. You're always trying to, show who's got a bigger chest. Like it's all like an individualistic, approach as
Hmm.
well. And I always tell people it's so interesting, man. Like, and that they're also more into street ball. You'll see
Hmm.
more street ball over there.
Hmm.
I always tell people like Israeli players, Arab players are the most technical players I've ever seen. Like
Hmm.
if you compare them to Germans, if you compare them to Swedes, they're
Hmm.
more technical.
Hmm.
But when you talk about like tactics, working together as a team, discipline, um, and teamwork, like you mentioned, like Germans are, they're nowhere near that, and that's why Sweden and Germany, are successful teams. Like
Yes.
I think they buy into the collective.
Yes.
They they participate as a team and they literally play for on what's on their front, not on
Hmm.
their back. I mean,
Hmm.
it's such a cliche saying that you have to,
It is.
play
Yeah,
for the
but
front
it
and not
is.
on the back, but
Yeah,
it's true,
it's
it's
true.
true. And I think, and it's the same thing, like if you drive on the roads in Israel, it's like a shambles, but like if you drive on the road and it's like everything's rushed over there,
Yes.
in
Yes.
Germany and Sweden, things are more orderly, things are more
Hmm.
structured. You look at the
Hmm.
same thing in football. In Germany and Sweden, the buildup is much slower.
Hmm.
They're more patient. Once they have their opportunity, they take it with
Hmm.
vengeance. But in Israel, I noticed it was like more ping pong. Like you're trying,
Hmm.
one team's on the counter attack. It's like more of a mess. So I
Hmm.
think I think when you like see how life contributes to football on the field, it's really interesting.
It is, for sure. And it's true what you said. In Brazil, it's the same thing. You have a lot of rush to get things done,
Yeah.
and everything's crowded. And it's very different to the US, for example. Which you have a huge infrastructure. Everything is bigger, and you have an easier access to everything. So I think all of those things are a little bit of a contributing factor to how the sport plays. Sometimes we might not even notice, but
Of
all of
course.
those things, all of the pressure that young kids have in Brazil to, they have to do it, otherwise, you know, they're gonna be starving at home.
Hmm.
I had
Hmm.
some players that I played with that had nothing. They
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
literally had nothing, um, and now some of them are very successful,
Hmm.
which is amazing to see. Um, but yeah, I think it's hard to talk about this. I think we can talk about this for hours and hours, and we're
Yeah.
probably not gonna find an answer
Of
on
course. Of course.
why it's that specific. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. So take us on the rest of your journey. Oh, actually, I wanted to ask you like the difference between the training environment at where you're at Charleston in West Virginia compared to UNC Wilmington, because as we know, I think it's some people, they think, oh, Division One, it's automatically going to be better. But
Mm-hmm.
you and me both know some Division Two and Division Three teams can beat Division One teams.
Mm-hmm.
So just for the audience, if you can
Of course.
describe the training environment.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I say to everyone that Charleston is a top 10 D1 program.
Wow.
At the time that I was playing there, I'm pretty sure that we'll be a national title contender.
Wow.
We were very, very good. You had Brazilians that played in the biggest clubs in Brazil. You had English players that played in the biggest clubs in England. You had French players that played in the biggest French clubs, and you had Italians that played in the biggest Italian clubs. So it was a huge mix of very talented players that just didn't become professionals in their country. And we had an unbelievable coaching staff behind us to give us all of the best, information to succeed. And then at Wilmington, for me, the biggest difference compared to Charleston is the access, is the infrastructure that Division One gives the athlete in comparison to a D2 or maybe a D3. Just the comfort, just get 2-3 boots the year, and you get a huge amount of clothing, and have unbelievable training facility. You have physical trainers. You have everything you can imagine at a D1 that you might not have the luxury in a D2.
Sure.
But in terms of, at least for me, I think I was in the best Division 2 program in the country. So the level in terms of practice, it was the same. It was the same. It was very, very high in both universities. But yeah, I think the biggest difference is the money aspect, that you would definitely, most likely, you have more in a D1 than you have in a D2.
For sure.
So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
Interesting. What attracted all those foreigners to Charleston? Is it the
Yeah,
the coaching staff, or
we've had a lot of conversations about this as players, because it's a small town.
who the hell wants to go to West Virginia?
Like
Man?
it's the capital of West Virginia, yes, but
but
there's not much,
yeah,
But the coaching staff makes it makes the experience very, very worthwhile. We tried to find an answer why West Virginia, and in the end, it always goes back to football, for the level
of
of the level of experience that is provided to us.
Yes.
Also, the people at the university, that because it's a very small campus, it's only 2,300 students. They make it look like home. They make it feel like home, and these people make the place very special. If you don't have a lot of partying and all that stuff that you might find in Wilmington, for example, or in many other universities in the country, but what the coaching staff provides you with, very detailed information and all, the best technology, Instat, and at the time I think we used VX. Now I think it's Catapult, and all of that stuff, that they have and they share with us, is already very, very convincing straight away, especially for us coming from Brazil, for example, because we don't have much. Of course, other universities have that, but the way you sell it and the way you approach the program and the way they build the culture of the program, I think that's what attracts student athletes the most. And when I heard,
it sounds like serious players.
It is. It's a very special place to be. It's a very special place to play, because of the coaching staff, because of the players that they recruit, and because of the people in the university as well. But yeah, and then I think that's the best way to answer it. I still don't know the answer, but the way they sell the program, the way
Of course.
the way they make the culture of the men's soccer program at the university is very
Yeah.
brave. They want it to be an elite program, and they want it to be an elite experience. And it is. It was
Yeah.
it was the best 3-4 years of my life for sure.
That's
I
awesome.
don't regret a thing.
Environment is everything, Good
Absolutely,
environment is absolutely everything.
absolutely.
But yeah, man, if you could just take us, after Wilmington, I had cut you off before on that, where did that lead you?
Yeah. So I graduated Charleston in 18, and then went to Wilmington to play that fall.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Played that fall. We were the regular season champions, CAA regular season champions. We had a record of 12-3-4, I think, at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we still didn't make to the national tournament, which was very, very weird. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you have all those different rankings in Division One that I
Mm-hmm.
might not agree sometimes with, but it's okay. But yeah, we still had a very successful season. I was able to get some individual awards as well, which is always nice. I don't like to talk about them too much, but it's good sometimes to get
Why
some
not? You can
some,
talk about it, man. Why
some
not?
acknowledgments. But
That's what you
uh,
gotta do.
yeah, it was very nice. Aidan Heaney was a very very good coach, um, very approachable, very friendly, makes you feel very very welcomed. He's literally trying to provide you with everything uh, at the best level possible.
That's
His
awesome.
door is always open for a chat, for whatever you need, and that makes it very easy from a
Mm,
player's perspective.
mm,
And then yeah, from there I went back to Brazil for that Christmas period, because I
mhm,
of course had to go back to finish my degree, and
mhm,
at the same time I went on a few trials. Um, I went to North Carolina FC at the time. I went to Charlotte Independence, and they didn't work out. And at the
mhm,
same time, a month after I came back, the pandemic started, and it was chaos.
mm,
For those
mm,
that didn't have a team, I think it was almost impossible to find one, especially just finished college was very unique. It was a very unique
mm,
situation for me. So honestly didn't know what to do, because all I had in my head was I wanted to play professionally, and
mm.
um, whenever pandemic came, it was very tough to
Yeah.
figure out something to do. But then message Daniels me, um, the head coach at Charleston,
Mm,
uh, and he offered me a position as an assistant there. So I went to Charleston in the fall of 2020,
mm,
um, and stayed stayed there until May uh, of um, of 2021. But in the meantime, I went to Tormenta. Um,
mm,
Ian Cameron, head coach of Tormenta, reached out to me. Um, Tom Morris had a connection with Daniel Smia already, and he mentioned, he asked what I was doing, and they sent me, and they wanted me to go down to Tormenta in February, if I'm not mistaken,
mhm,
for a trial. Um, Thankfully, they liked it, and they invited me for preseason with the USL League One team um, in March. So I stayed there from March onwards,
nice.
and then of course they didn't have international sports at the time, and then I played the USL League Two season
Mhm,
uh,
mhm,
for Tormenta Two, and then after the season was done, um, in the summer, I went to West Virginia University to be an assistant for Daniel Stratford, uh, and we just finished the most successful run in the program's history. We went to the Elite Eight. We lost to Georgetown in PK, so we are very
wow.
close to making the Final Four. Um, so yeah, the break, the period that I stayed without playing football also made me realize and make me have something in my mind of what I want to do in the future. And
Hmm.
now I am 100% certain that after I play, I want to become a coach. And it's thankful to this period that I stayed without playing.
Of course.
It was very hard because I was like, am I done? Am I never going to play
Mm,
football again?
mm.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
You never know
Yeah.
when the last day is going to be. So, and
Hmm.
because the pandemic was on, and a lot of uncertainty, and I really didn't know. So this opportunity came out of nowhere when I was not expecting anything
That's
in
how it
terms
works, huh?
of football anymore.
Yeah.
I was, already uh, going towards coaching and going on that route. And then, but at the same time, I was always keeping my fitness on. I was always training. I was
Yeah.
always doing those little things because I think that maybe on the back of my head, I was like, there's got to be something still,
Very,
Uh,
yeah,
I
very
think,
smart because it's something I tell players all the time, whether it's guys reach out, my friends, guys I coach in my
mhm,
program. That opportunity always comes when you're least ready for it. You know what
yes,
I mean? So it's like
yes,
I think one of the biggest mistakes players can make is like, they have a couple trials, they don't go well. Nothing shows up for a couple
hmm,
months, and then they just say to themselves,
yeah,
I think I might be done. And
yeah,
instead of what you did, kept your fitness levels up, kept training, they just, stop playing,
yeah,
stop training altogether because of the low, which is,
yeah,
it's a natural part of life and
yeah,
football. And I think the most important thing is to be, as hard as it is, to be able to keep training and keep going even if you don't have the opportunity at the moment. Because the way football is, I feel like it's like, all right, you don't have any opportunities for, a couple of weeks, couple of months. And then like all of a sudden you have like 4 or 5 opportunities. And if you didn't keep your fitness levels up, you don't know what could happen.
for sure. And it was quite interesting because I don't know what it was. I think it's just I think it's all about passion. If you want to play the sport, you have to have the love
Yes.
for the game. Otherwise, in
Yes.
my opinion, there's no point uh, in doing it. I think not only to play the sport, but to do everything that you want to do in life. If you want to be
Of course.
a musician, if you want to be a lawyer, whatever you want to do, I think you have to have passion for that thing first of all.
100%.
So I always knew that. I'm not going to say I always knew, but I always thought in my head that I don't want to give up. I want to do. I want to still keep training. I want to still go to trials. I still want to see if I can play. So I did go to another trial. All over the country. I
Mhm.
drove from Charleston to Oklahoma, 17 hours. Me and a friend of
Wow.
mine to try it, and it didn't
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
heads up, move on. Went to
Love it. Love
Greenville,
it.
South Carolina to try it. Didn't work out. Okay, move on. Let's go. Let's keep working. Of course, sometimes you're gonna get tired. Don't get me wrong. It's always like,
Of
okay,
course.
okay, let's keep going. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's annoying because you feel like you're good enough, but you don't know what's missing. You
Of
don't
course.
know what is going on. Why don't I
And
get the
sometimes it might
opportunity?
not be ability. Sometimes it's
Exactly.
other things that you don't even know. And
Exactly.
I think, that's like the good and the bad of football. It's an opinion game. Like for
Correct.
example, you have one coach who loves your style, you fit into his system. You have another
Correct.
coach who doesn't like your style, who
Correct.
likes your style that you don't fit into his
One
system.
hundred
So
percent. 100%.
um
Whenever we go to trials, I think sometimes we don't know. We think, oh, I'm gonna play well, and I'm gonna get an opportunity. Sometimes not like that. Sometimes the coach doesn't need that specific position.
exactly.
Sometimes your style might not fit the position. Maybe he wants a different type of
Hmm.
center midfielder, a different left winger, something like that.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
but yeah, sometimes it's tiring. Sometimes it is frustrating. But I think that's everything in life.
Hmm.
It's not easy. Uh, so yeah, I
Persistence,
mean,
it's about the last man
100%.
standing. So with that being said, I get this question a lot. I actually got this the other day in one of my Q&As. What quote motivated you? What kept you going when you didn't have a team?
Yeah, I I I honestly I don't know what it was at the time, but I think I'm gonna use a quote from one of the podcasts that I was listening to a couple of nights ago from Nims, Persia, the guy that climbed the
Okay.
8,000 meters
Yeah.
mountain in the world in under 7 months. He beat the record that was previously set, I think, at 7 years, and he did it in 7 months. And I was
Wow.
listening to the podcast. The High Performance podcast is very
Oh
good
yeah.
with
Top
Jake
class.
Jake Humphrey and Damon Hughes. So I was
Hmm.
listening to that a couple of nights ago, and he says it's all about belief. You gotta believe. You gotta put your
Yes.
mind into into what you believe you can do. And I don't know if I had a quote at the time. I don't know. I just kept going because I think I didn't want to give up. I of course I had a great backup system. I had my family pushing me, um, my girlfriend pushing me, so my friends pushing me. So you know it's very good to have a good backup system as well, because
Of
they'll
course.
they'll give you some strength whenever
Of
you
course.
you don't know. uh, but yeah, I think you know if I could recommend something, is to listen to that podcast and probably use every single word of what that guy says and try to use it on your day-to-day life. It's going to go from everything from your biggest dreams to just running on the treadmill, trying to do a 3 mile run, and you're very tired but you want to keep going because you believe that that's going to help you to do something greater. You know what I mean?
Of course. Every
So
every little thing you do means something in the bigger
correct.
picture, man.
Correct. So I think it's all about dreaming. You gotta dream. You gotta believe. You gotta if you believe, if you want to do something, do it with passion. Do it with all belief, 100% belief and commitment that you can do something. And don't get me wrong. Of course, you might have some days that you're gonna be very tired and frustrated, and you think it's not gonna work. And I think it's step by step, go back to basics. I
Of
love
course.
i love I love to have the thought of going back to basics. I think it's the best thing whenever everything is tight, and you're in a pressure situation, not on the field but in life in general. Just do the basics well. I think you'll bring
Well,
it
even
down
on the
to
field, man. Even on the field, when
100%.
when when it's
Yes,
when it's tight and it's
exactly.
complete a pass. You don't need to
Exactly.
do something
Complete
risky.
a pass, win a tackle. I
Yeah.
have I have a
Set
I
the
have a
tone.
good friend of mine, that he's actually the assistant at West Virginia University as well. Ross Holland. He played for Sunderland, and
Mm,
he always says the first 5 minutes I'm just doing the basics. I'm winning the first tackle. I'm completing a
no, it's
pass, and
huge.
then from there I am I'm fine. So yeah, go back to
Love that.
basics. Do the
Love
basics
that.
fine. Do the basics well, in life, and on the game as well. I think it will help you to have confidence, and put you back in the place that you have to be to achieve what you want to achieve.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
what I did. That was probably the quote that I had in my head: believe,
Hmm.
um,
Mm,
and do the little things that you know that you can do.
absolutely. No, and to go off of that, I have 2 points off of that. Some great stuff. I mean, I think the biggest thing there is like belief. We talk about belief, believing yourself, and you know, I think the way that you really believe in yourself, besides having those thoughts, is the action. So, how do you believe in yourself more? You put in the right amount, the right work. You put in the right amount of work. You take care of yourself, and the better you become as a footballer, as an athlete, the more confidence you get. It's like
100%.
when you take care of all those things that you can control, you can believe in yourself even more. And a quote that I love is, the harder you work, the harder it is to quit. So when you're putting in all that work, you're putting all that behind that work behind you to make that belief stronger, it's going to be harder to throw that towel in. So that
100%.
power is huge.
I totally agree.
And then off of what your buddy said, Ross Holland, I think you said.
Ross Holland, yes.
No, I love that, man. I think that's an excellent piece of advice, an excellent practical piece of advice for all the footballers listening.
Yeah.
Um, I think I've always said that when you first go into the game, it's like, get into the flow of the game, complete passes,
Yeah.
make play the simple ball for the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then once you get warm and you get ready, you get mentally activated, physically activated, then you could start to play your risky balls. Then you could
Yes.
start to take your risky dribbles, depending on
Yeah.
what your strength is. And yeah, also I think a huge point there is, put a good tackle and set the tone for
Yeah,
the game, set the tone against your opponent. So no, I think that's a great piece of advice there.
yeah, I think so too. Sometimes you don't notice it, but those first 5, 10, 15 minutes in the game are probably the most important ones. Of course, the whole 90 minutes and more are very important. But I think that if you can set the tone right, if you can get into the right mentality straight away, and you can send the energy to your teammates and to your
Yes.
coaching staff, and to your fans, that the game is going to be played in your style, your ways. I think
Love
it
that.
gives you a lot of confidence, and it sets the tone straight away. So
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah, I love those 5, 10, 15 minutes. I think it's all about being very focused and being very mindful, and being aware of what you have to do, and the little things, and completing a pass, and completing a tackle, and you know being very energetic. And then from
Hmm.
there, I think you're able to just express yourself more, that specific qualities and characteristics that you have as a player.
Of course. Love that, man. Yeah, so if you could just take us through, obviously I know you're in the off season right now, but if you could take us through like in season, like a typical day in the life, what time you wake up, you know, I'd like you to be as detailed as possible,
Yeah.
what you eat for breakfast, when you get into the
Hmm.
facility, if you do activation, lunch, dinner, all that stuff until the
Okay.
end of the day would be
Yeah.
great.
So it's going to be very similar to what we had during the summer with the USL League Two for us. It's going to be very very similar in terms of the day schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I like to wake up at 6 ish, 6 a.m., six
Mm-hmm.
twenty a.m. Get a
Mm.
little stretch in my room, nothing too crazy, just to get myself going. Actually, first thing, drink a glass of water. Um, then you know have a little stretch for 20 minutes, nothing too
Mm-hmm.
crazy, 15, 20 minutes. And then I usually eat at home before training.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I usually eat is oatmeal, eggs. I have to
Mm-hmm.
have a cup of coffee. I think coffee is always with me.
Oh,
uh,
let's go. Let's go, baby.
it's always with me. And then a piece of fruit. I don't like to get myself completely full before the
Of
training
course.
session. So yeah, eggs, oatmeal, fruits. Those are my usually to go options for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then because I'm from Brazil, I have a little bit of notion about a little flour called tapioca, and
Okay.
some nutritionists gave me the option of doing a crepioca, which is a crepe with using actually the tapioca flour, and you mix it with some
Yeah.
eggs, and you put some cheese on it.
Nice.
It's very good
Wow.
and
Sounds
very
good.
very nutritional as well. So
Yeah.
sometimes I make that, but then
Some good
yeah,
carbs in that
it
tapioca,
is
huh?
very good. Yes.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I go to the training facility. um, I don't know how the schedule is going to be uh, for us this year, but I'm assuming it will be very similar. But let's say I get to the facility at 7:45 a.m., 8 a.m.
Mm, mm,
Uh,
mm,
do some type of activation, uh, either foam rollers, band workouts, another set of stretching,
mhm,
maybe some yoga movements, maybe bike for a little bit, maybe some
mhm,
heat pads, whatever your body demands, whatever you're feeling like at the moment. Uh, they have a full list of what they recommend you doing.
mm, mm,
So you can pretty much go from there and ask for some help, and uh, yeah, do some of those things that they provide you with. And then yeah, you do this before you go out to the field. For us, usually the session is started at 9 during the summer,
mm,
but I think we're gonna start at 8. But I'm not sure. This is just me guessing here. I don't want
mhm.
to say anything for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's say go to the field at 8, 8:45, 8:40, just to kick around a little bit, to touch, all of those fun things that we like to do before a session, just to get loosened up a little bit, loosen up the mood. Full training session from 9 to 11, kinda. Sometimes we do videos before, sometimes we do videos after. It depends. Sometimes we do both. But yeah, if we're preparing for a game, if the game is on a Saturday, we're probably, if we played on a Wednesday, for example, or a Tuesday, we have to go day by day. So let's say it's a Thursday and we watch the film before practice, and then something after practice as well, or Friday morning for set pieces and all that stuff. So yeah, do some film before, have a session until 11ish. I'm the ones that usually like to stay out to do some free kicks, some penalties, some finishing, all that
What
stuff.
position do you play?
Midfielder, center midfielder,
Center midfielder.
8, 6, 10.
Nice.
One of those there. But I think 8 more. But yeah, I'm a big, staying a little bit after training guy. I like to take my free kicks every session if I can. Of course, if I'm not fatigued and very tired, because sometimes you want to stay out, but you got to know yourself as well, just to take a step out and don't do anything else for the day. Which is very hard sometimes, because you want to stay out a little bit and do a little bit of extra. But yeah, go back inside, take a shower, eat straight away. We eat at the club, which is very nice. They have a great food system for us, providing there during all the season.
Nice.
It's a brunch at that time. It's pretty much a hotel type of thing. You have loads of different fruits. You have bread and eggs and avocado and coffee and oatmeal and potatoes and sausage, whatever. It's very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, very well organized by them. Finish eating at around 12:30, 12:40, and then it depends on the day, depends on the schedule. But then if we have a gym session, the gym session is right after training. So if we finish at 11, we'd go to the gym at 11:30 until 12:30, and then we would come back to eat. It depends on the schedule as well. It depends on games and all that stuff. But yeah, the gym would probably be before food there. But then after practice and before gym, would have a shake, protein shake, and maybe a piece of fruit. It depends, whatever you feel like. But the protein shake, it's pretty much a must.
Of course.
And then yeah, go to brunch. Finish brunch, at around 1ish. Maybe have another video session if we haven't done during that period, and then go back home. And then what I like to do is maybe take a little nap. It depends on the day. Sometimes I don't feel like it. Sometimes I just have things to do. So sometimes I cannot fit it. But ideally, I would like to take a 20-minute nap, 30-minute nap before I actually do something again. But at the same time, I like to go back to the gym maybe sometimes, depending on the day, depending on how my body feels. Maybe just, go for a walk, maybe go for a bike ride, or maybe just stay at home. Sometimes you need to stay at home and do absolutely nothing. Just, read, talk to your family, talk to your friends, play games. Sometimes you need to do nothing other than just, have fun, have a good moment. So yeah, then let's say I took a nap. Of course, I'm eating again, trying to get a snack, fruits, rice cakes with some type of, maybe peanut butter or I don't know, cottage cheese or something like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fruit, protein bar. Um, yeah, I'm very repetitive with my nutrition. I have my things that I like to eat and that I know that will make me feel good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so let's say it's 3 o'clock, 3:30. Uh, I like to read a little bit, to maybe do something, informative. Maybe I wanna start my coaching licenses. So that's what I'm gonna be
Nice.
doing for the next years.
Mm.
So I want to get my licenses going. So my afternoons are probably going to be taken with that. And then at 6, we go back to the club. We have dinner.
That's nice.
We go back to the club. We have dinner, and it's again very very nice. They have a great diversity of food, and they accommodate every type of style. If you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, if
Mm-mm-mm.
you are,
Yeah, you told me you're a vegetarian, right? So you stay away
yes,
from meat.
correct. Yeah,
How
correct.
long you been doing
It's
that?
been a year and a year and a year and 7 months, I think.
You notice
Um,
any difference in how you feel?
yeah, I don't like to say, oh, don't eat meat or eat meat. I don't want to get into that
Yeah, just how
debate.
you feel.
But yeah, I feel very energized every single day when I wake up. I don't feel sluggish. I don't feel, "Oh, I just woke up and I'm, taking so long to get started with my day." I
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm always fresh. I'm always energized. I feel a little bit leaner as well.
Of course.
I don't think I am, I've never been a huge guy, but at the same time, I feel that my body is a little bit more shaped up. I feel like it's,
Mm.
um,
The number one thing I always hear from my friends who go vegan or vegetarian is that they always say, I feel lighter,
exactly,
so
exactly.
it's
It's
interesting.
I think that's the word. It's what I feel the most is lighter and more energy in terms
You,
of,
you eat fish as well or no?
very rarely. Like, I eat fish if I eat sushi, which I usually don't do.
Hmm.
But
So what
sometimes
would a dinner be like?
yeah, but sometimes
Yeah,
in a
for
special occasion, I like to eat a piece of salmon. You know what I mean?
yes, yes.
I'm not. I'm not. I am a vegetarian, but at the same time, if I want to have a little piece of fish, I want to have a little piece of fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
come
feel
on,
like I'm already, doing a good job in terms of the world and all that stuff by just being a vegetarian. You know what I mean?
for sure.
I'm not a
So what do you get
vegetarian.
if you go out to eat with your family to a churrascaria?
Yeah,
What are they going to serve you
I don't go.
there? Nah, that's all
I'm gonna
right,
be
man.
like,
That's all
let's.
right.
Can we go somewhere else? Uh,
Yeah.
my dad is quite
Gabriel wants a
funny.
salad, man.
Yeah, my dad
That's
is
it.
like, how come? Like, we're Brazilians, we
Yeah.
eat meat every day. And I'm like, I'm going away from that a little bit. But yeah, but I would say, I love an Italian food. I love
Mm,
Indian food. So
yeah, it's nice.
those would probably be my top choices if I would go to a
Mm,
restaurant.
mm.
Um, just some type of, curry. I'm a big fan of a curry.
Yeah, Indian's nice, man.
Some veggies. Some carbs, and yeah, all of that I'm a big fan of. But
Mm,
yeah, I do eat fish, but very very rarely. I don't.
mhm,
I would say not even once a month. I would say, every
interesting.
2 3 months, if it's something special, something like that. Um, but yeah, I think, and then, I'd have dinner at the club at 6:30, uh, finish, go back home, and then I think at that time I am already, trying to, relax and prepare for the next
Yeah.
day, um,
Mhm,
and get my mind ready and try to prepare a little bit for what's coming next. If it's a
mhm.
game, it's a bit different than if it's a practice. I feel like, you just trying to see exactly what you're going to do in a game, while in
For
a
sure.
practice you're thinking a little bit different. It's not a thinking process for a game is much different than a thinking process for practice.
Absolutely.
But yeah, then be home at 7. Maybe watch a movie or something like that, and just really relax. It depends. It depends.
Mhm.
But sometimes you're feeling like you want to work even more. You want to do something more. You want to keep
Yeah.
learning. You want to keep reading. You want to do something. Very very productive. But yeah, I'm a big football watcher. I watch everything that's on TV.
Hmm.
The Champions League's going on. I'm gonna watch the Champions League. If Brazilian League is going on, I'm gonna watch the Brazilian League. If it's a World Cup year, so in December, because it's in December for the first time ever, I'm gonna be watching all the games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to watch football all the time as well. So
Of course.
yeah, just something in those terms. Listening to podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, I really really like podcasts. I
Yeah, they're
feel like
nice.
they are very very good way of learning, um,
100%.
and very
Not as
very
boring as those damn audiobooks, man.
exactly
Holy.
exactly because in a podcast you can actually search for exactly what you want to hear. If I want
Yeah.
to hear
And
about
you could
football,
feel the tone of their voice,
exactly
like
exactly
audiobooks, it's just monotone the whole time. You just
correct
want to sleep, man.
correct. You wanna learn about football, you're gonna go and learn about football. If you want to learn about whatever music, you can go and find a podcast that's gonna talk about music.
Of
So
course.
I feel like that's amazing. That's a great way
Hmm.
of learning. If you don't like to read, you know go listen to a podcast. you
For
know
sure.
if you like to do both, even better.
Hmm. For
But
sure.
yeah, I love podcasts. I've been listening to a lot of it. And then yeah, around um, 8, maybe have another snack, something a little bit lighter, piece of chocolate. I love chocolate, so might eat a little piece of chocolate with some
Hmm.
tea.
Hmm.
um, you know um, Maybe something very light, maybe even fruits,
Hmm.
maybe yogurt, maybe I would say
Hmm.
yogurt a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, just, and then it's around 9, I like to be in bed, um, just getting ready to sleep, and then click the repeat button for next day.
Yep. Yep.
um, but yeah, I think that would probably be my routine, on a
Love
day
it.
to day.
Love it, bro. Yeah, man. So just coming towards the end, I got a couple more questions.
Hmm.
Um, I get many messages from younger footballers talking about how, okay, I train, I do everything I need to do, I feel prepared, I do so well in training, and then when
Hmm.
game time comes, I feel nervous, I feel like crap. Are there
Hmm.
any piece of advice that you have for younger players who feel like they get jittery or feel like they're nervous when they step onto the pitch?
Yeah, I think feeling um, anxious is good. I have that in my mind, that you're not nervous because you know what you have to do. I feel
Like that.
nervous if I'm going to do something that I don't know what I'm gonna do. Then I'm nervous.
Yeah.
When I'm
Yeah.
about to step into the field, I'm anxious. I have those butterflies, but it's not because I'm nervous. It's because I want to be there, and it's just that anxiety about
Love that.
the atmosphere and the environment. It's
Yeah,
it's
you're excited.
I'm excited to be there, and I know what I have to do. So if I didn't know what I had to do, then yes, I'll probably be freaking out, and that's not a good sign. But if you're feeling that, I'm trying to. My best piece of advice would be trying to get your head around telling yourself that you're not nervous, you're anxious or excited, because you know what you're gonna do, and you know what you have to do, and you know your strengths, and you know how to play the game. You know. Uh, but I think that's the main thing. But at the same time, I feel like some people have their superstitions, some people have their rituals. Try to find joys if you have one.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I don't have a lot. I don't have many things, but what makes me feel good is have a cup of coffee. Always have a cup
Yes.
of coffee. Just um, set the mood there, and listen to some good music. That's literally
Some
what I
Brazilian
do.
samba.
I honestly don't, man. Like
That's
I
good,
have a
man.
lot of Brazilians saying that I'm a fake Brazilian because I don't listen
Ay, ay, ay.
to all like to pagode and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
big rock guy.
Ah, yeah.
My dad, he's a musician, and he took
Oh,
me kind
wow.
of down to that road. So I always have some U2 and some Led Zeppelin and some
Nice,
Pink
man.
Floyd and some of those things. But yeah, I have a cup of coffee. I I usually listen to some good music, and
Mm-hmm,
then
mm-hmm.
it's just honestly focusing on what I have to do. I think it's just you know what we've done during the week, uh, and honestly just putting your your cleats and giving a little bit of attention to them, and then yeah,
Yeah.
just going out there and doing what you've done for your whole life. It's at the end of the day, there is pressure,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a game. It's a game.
Love it.
there
Mm-hmm.
there there are people in the world that face real pressure, and
Love that.
we don't want to go into more details with that, because it is a pressure, but it's a game. It's
So
a
yeah, it's
game of
also a
football.
privilege to get to play.
Exactly, pressure. Daniel Stratford always says that pressure is a privilege, right? And we are very privileged to play football, to play soccer. Uh, so yeah, I try not to think about the occasion too much. I just try to think that it's a game, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, if you've done everything you can, if you've done your 100%, sometimes the result won't go your way, and that's just how football, that's just how life is. But yeah, just think that it's just a game. There's no reason to freak out. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you might be representing a huge institution, you might be representing a national team one day, who knows, or even just the baggage of representing your family might give you some type of jittery. But just think that if you're doing the best, they will be proud, you will be proud of yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll probably be doing a good job. So yeah, just again, go back to the basics. If you're nervous, go
I
back to the
appreciate it.
basics. do
Yeah.
do the simple things well, and it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Whenever the referee blows the whistle, that those butterflies just go away, and you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Love that, bro. Love that. And just last question, man. If you could go back to yourself at any age, with the knowledge that you have today, what age would you go to, and what would you tell yourself?
That's tough.
Not an
uh,
easy one, man. Not an easy one.
uh, I think those teenage years are very interesting, because you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and you're trying to learn more about yourself, and you're, especially in the world of football, you know how it is. It's very competitive, and in
Yes.
Brazil it's no different. It's probably even more competitive because of the nature
Yeah.
of the country and the amount of talent that you have in Brazil. So um, yeah, I would say probably around 14, 15, and just to tell myself, like, do the little things well.
Love that.
Just focus on the day to day. Don't Yes, it's good to dream. You have to dream, think big, but at the same time you got to think big, but you got to think day to day as well. So
Love that.
just do the right things in practice. Try to learn your weaknesses, which is something very hard, I think some people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know it's hard to find your weakness by yourself. I think sometimes you need someone telling you, like,
Yeah.
can you do this different? And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes you got to drop the ego and ask someone else what
100%.
they think.
100%. You got to be like, okay, I could have done this better. Maybe find something. Maybe you're not good with your left foot, maybe you're not good with your right foot. Can you work on it a little bit more? Can you, I don't know, watch a video nowadays that you have so many resources. Can you watch a video on your favorite midfielder, and why is he your favorite midfielder? Is it because he completes 98% of the passes per game, or is it because he creates so many chances? What is it? What is it that they do different that you are
Hmm.
not able to do at the moment? Uh, so yeah, I think I'll tell myself to, you know, relax first of all. That, just to uh, do the basics, go to the day by day
Hmm.
process,
Hmm.
dream, believe, um, and then yeah, just try to get as much information as you can and accept information, uh, and then
Be
learn.
open-minded, not
Exactly,
closed-minded.
be very open-minded. And um, you know I think I was a very hardworking kid. I think I was very, very open, but even more, try to learn, try to maybe do things a little bit different. I was very tiny at the moment, which was not my fault. I just took longer to grow compared to many
Yeah.
others, and that kind of, held me back a little bit in terms of my maybe professional aspirations in Brazil, for example. Um,
Hmm.
so maybe I had to change my nutrition. Maybe I had to change, uh, you know, my gym schedule.
Hmm.
Do something to adapt quicker to how the environment was. But
Mm.
at the same time, when you're 14, 15 years old, you don't know everything. And you're never gonna know
Hmm.
everything. So
But also,
uh,
you can look at it as as a little benefit as well. It's like, all right, you're not as big, so you're not as, physically developed. So maybe, you know, you develop more in the brain. Your technique
100%,
got better because of it.
100%.
And I think it's like, I forgot what it is, but like I think, you know, when you're missing something, like genetically, like whether it's a sense or something, like
Hmm.
the other sense gets better. So it's
It's
the same
better.
thing within the football
Mm,
environment. So like, all right, maybe if you're not as big, you develop in this way, and that helped
yeah.
you got where you are today. So it's
Yeah,
like you could look at that
I,
a couple
I,
different ways.
I feel like I definitely changed my game at that stage. Um, I was very, I was able to dribble around players when I was little. I was able to, get around some tight situations because of my technique, but because I
Mhm,
wasn't able to do that anymore because of my size, at the time was very hard for me. I had to adapt my
mhm,
game a little bit more. So I became a very 1-2 touch player.
mm,
Um, and actually a lot of people at the time were like, relax, you can take more space, you can, don't need to do 1-2 touch all the time.
yeah.
But it helped me as well, to get a different feeling, to get a different view of how the game can
Mhm,
be played as well. you know
mhm,
um, so understanding how to play both ways, sometimes you can take a little bit more space, sometimes you can be more patient on the ball, sometimes you
mhm,
can speed it up, sometimes, all of those things that I probably didn't realize as a kid. Whenever I was a little bit older, I was like, I think that's why it changed. That's why I
mhm,
changed my
mhm,
style, that's why I changed the way I play. you know
mhm.
so yeah, I think yeah, just telling myself to chill out and relax and do the basics and go day by day and dream and believe. Yeah.
Sounds good, man. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. In the future we'll definitely meet, catch up. But yeah, man, if you can, provide the audience with, your Instagram handle
Mm-hmm.
or email, if some of the younger guys or girls have questions, you could just, list
100%.
rattle it off, and I'll write it below in the description.
100%. Yeah. No, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's a very good platform to, you know, share a little bit of what we know, and hopefully we can help someone uh,
Hmm.
along the line. So thank you for the invite.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, my Instagram handle is Gabriel.Cabral 8.
Hmm.
So it's just my first name
Perfect.
dot Cabral number 8, and then my Twitter. I don't usually use Twitter a lot. I'm trying to get used to it. It's
Mm.
Tunga, which is my nickname from back home. I'm gonna change that because it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
It's Tunga Cabral, so it's Tunga and then Cabral, and yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But
Sounds good. I'll
Instagram
put
is a
that
little bit
below.
easier.
Yeah. How's that gym program going for you? Enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Good.
It's very very soccer specific, which is great for us, especially off season.
Sounds good, man. Good to hear.
So yeah, it's very good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I appreciate you doing that for us. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So thanks for coming on, and we'll chat, brother.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good
Thank
weekend,
you.
brother.
You too.
Peace.
Bye bye.